Yo, what's going on, guys? Winner Kills here, and welcome back to a brand new Locals feature match. Here we are in round 3 for my Locals this past Saturday. This is going to be the last feature match I have from this specific Locals because the 4th round, the file got corrupted. So I'm going to have to show you guys some feature matches from, I think, like the week prior. And I do have 4 rounds of that to show you guys. Also, a big pack opening video will be going up too, probably tomorrow. Although I probably should just upload it today and get it out. Probably be a double upload today. I know the videos are going up late. Just been kind of busy today and haven't had a chance to get the videos out in time. But we're going to see the Predap Despia deck lead here. My friend Dan versus my friend Johnny. And we're going to see his Brand Infusion get ashed, and we all kind of know how that works. I mean, some hands, right, you know, you can definitely play through it, but other hands, it's just like you need it to resolve. And if it doesn't resolve, right, it doesn't resolve. It's just kind of how it is. Then we're going to see him pass turn to our Dinomorphia duelist, who's going to activate Pot of Duality, take a card, and then set 5 in the main decked anti-spell. Gonna hurt quite a bit here, but our Despia player will have a very clutch copy of the branded opening, which he will chain in response to the anti-spell, of course, before it can resolve, and discarding the Nibiru because you probably, right, safe to say you probably won't need that card in this particular matchup, so that's just a free discard at this point. And we're going to see him add the Aliber to hand, normal summon the Aliber, and, you know, you might as well, you know, why not special summon the Aliber, right? Well, you want to add it to hand first so you can normal summon it in attack position because branded opening can only summon the monsters in defense. So if you want to try to get some damage in, you want to just, like, add it to hand, then normal it. And obviously that plays into draw a little bit more, but that's kind of like the least of your worries right now since there's an anti-spell on board. And you don't have anything to do about it. We're also going to see the Dinomorphia Frenzy activate now, which basically allows you to pay after life points to fusion summon using monsters from your deck and extra deck. That's kind of the whole gimmick of the deck, right? Pay half, pay half, pay half, and the lower your life points get, you know, the more benefits you can take advantage of in your engine. So we're going to see him go for Dinomorphia Kentragina, which will activate on summon to pay half to copy a Dinomorphia trap in the grave. This is going to copy the Frenzy, allowing him to pay half, you know, again. Well, the Kentragina doesn't pay half, but the trap pays half. So basically copying that effect, pay half to fusion summon for the Rexstrom. And this card basically says your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters they control, whose attack are greater than or equal to their life points. And especially now that it's at 1,000 life points, because he can activate Domain here, which is basically going to let him do the same thing as Frenzy. I'm going to go for Kentragina again. And yeah, and that's in the end phase. And this is really looking rough here for Despia. Not only does he have to worry about kind of like a pseudo calamities on board, but both Kentraginas are at 4,000 normally. They do lose 1,000. They do lose 1,000 because they lose attack equal to your life points, so they're both at 3,000. And then we're going to see him flip up Ferret Flames, which basically says your opponent must send monsters they control, shuffle monsters they control into the deck, so that the attack of all monsters they control are less than or equal to, I believe, to their life points. So in this case, can't have more than 1,000 attacks worth of monster. Alubra has 18, so the whole board has to get shuffled in, and that does not affect the monsters. That affects the player. So big unaffected monsters like Arrival Cybers, etc., etc., can get shuffled back into the deck by that, and that hurts quite a bit. Yeah, and it's just a normal trap too, so they can just chain it to anything. It's not like you can hit it with like a Cosmic or a Twin Twister to get any value out of it. So we're going to see us go to a quick game 2 here. And we're going to see our Predap Despia player lead with a Clamito Sundew to fuse off with itself and the Predap Biblisp. Fusion summon into a dark monster here. That's all you can fuse with. We're going to see him go for the Predap Ambulo Melodies. I think that's the name of it, the proper name, or as DB Grinder calls it, the ambulance. This card's kind of insane too. When it's summoned, it lets you add a Predap spell or trap, I believe, from your deck to your hand. Then it's basically Lone Fire, where you can place a Predap counter on a monster, then tribute it, and if you do, you get to special summon a Predap monster from the deck. It's kind of insane. It's also an instant fusion target. I'm sure you guys have seen the Predap Despia deck before in the past, from like YCS Hartford and stuff. You know how powerful instant fusion can be with a card like this. So we're going to see him go for the Orphis Scorpio, or the Orphis Scorpio. Discarding Ash, go ahead and summon out the Cobra, the Darlington Cobra, and that is going to go ahead and add basically just any fusion, normal spell, I believe, or any polymerization. Either way, it's going to get him to Branded Fusion, and then Branded Fusion is going to go ahead and resolve here since Ash has already been burned on the Ambulo Melodies. Now, I mean, it might seem like, you know, hand trapping this version of the deck is a little more difficult, but it's really not. Ultimately, you still want to hold Ash for Branded Fusion at the end of the day, but that's kind of the whole reason behind the Predap Despia build, is to, you know, make your opponent think they have to hand trap you in a different spot, when in reality they don't. But I think that was very interesting that, you know, the people that created this deck, you know, there really was no, I mean, Ash on Branded Fusion will always be Ash on Branded Fusion, but how can you make it so your opponent thinks they have to hand trap you in other places, right? Just by like changing the framework around the deck, so, you know, to try to get them to hand trap in the wrong spots. So eventually that they don't Ash Branded Fusion, they're ashing other things like Darlington Cobra, but you have Branded Fusion in hand already, so, right? Very, very, very cool innovation there, and problem solving really for an archetype that, you know, kind of does hard to lose sometimes to an Ash. But we're seeing what he's going to send here, sending the Fairy Tale Snow and Fallen of Albaz to go ahead and summon out the Albion effect to go ahead and shuffle back, or well, banish Albaz and banish Ambulo Melodies. And it's nice that he gets to keep the Albion on field, applies a little bit more pressure, and he can fuse off with it as well if he would like. That'll also get it into the graveyard without having to exhaust Mirror Jade's effect to do it otherwise. To keep that banish live right at the start of your opponent's turn. So he's going to use the Bufolicula with a frog to go ahead and fusion summon as the scale into the Dragostapelia. In the end phase, we're going to see the Albion effect to go ahead and add or set a branded spell or trap from the deck. And he's going to go ahead and grab a copy of Branded Banishment, which is basically just Branded in red, but kind of in trap form. I mean, it's not exactly the same card, but it's a little different, but, you know, kind of does the same thing. So we're going to see our Dinomorphia player here lead with a Pot of Duality. And revealing a Solemn Strike, a Sonic, and a Domain. So, Solemn Strike is great in this deck, too, because it allows you to be able to stop any responses your opponent might have to your domains and your frenzies, because those traps both die inherently to Ash. And if anybody's struggling against the Dinomorphia deck, I would recommend try ashing domain or try ashing frenzy if they have strike or something else in response to the ash. Then you're just kind of out of luck. But if you can hold droplet, right, for something like Rexstrom and hope they don't have judgment, or hope you have a trap to pitch for the droplet, right, then you're kind of you're chilling there. But yeah, because the judgment just works so well in this deck because it already pays half your life points, which just fits into the whole gimmick of the deck. And yeah, if you can play around it, you know, you probably should. Also, hitting their normal summons is also good too, because it keeps them off having extra copies of, like, you don't want them to have both Frenzy and Domain, because you can't ash both, right? But if you keep them on just one copy, it becomes a little bit more manageable. And the other traps, they do a host of different things, but they're not nearly as scary as Domain or Frenzy, because that's the deck's main mode of fusion summoning. So the Theresia will get negated by the Dragostapelia. That will basically force him to pass turn there. Nothing else he can do. And we'll see what our Predaplant Despia player, Despia Dan here on the right, is going to be able to do. Well, that's a really good card, Arby's Feather Duster. Obviously, you know, coming in here, game 2, you kind of have to keep that in the back of your head. Of course, it is a one of, and, you know, if he sees it, right? But, yeah, we'll see if there's any response here. Looking in the graveyard, right, might be a sign that maybe there's a Call by the Grave set, right? And, of course, you have to set the Call by the Grave because it means you can stop the Ash on your Frenzy or your Domain, right? You want to have that strapped. So he will go ahead and activate Called by in response as Chainlink 2. We're going to see Branded Banishment as Chainlink 3. And I think he was trying to Called by the Albion. So we're going to see him activate Banishment targeting Albion to summon it back. And then we'll see if there is a Chainlink 4 here already. Harpies 1, Called by 2, Banishment 3, Sonic, or I think that's Brute. Brute is the pop. have to pop while you control a Dinomorphia. Pop, I think, any card the opponent controls. And the regular Dinomorphia traps do have other effects too when they're in the grave. They can banish, I think, if your life points are 2,000 or lower, to make it so you don't take any battle or effect damage for that turn. Kind of comes in clutch. You can't like cheese out an easy win against this deck. Sometimes it just burn stuff. We're gonna see Mirror Jade get chained, and then we're gonna see on top of that a copy of Domain. So Chainlink 1 Harpies, Chainlink 2 Callby, Chainlink 3 Banishment, Chainlink 3 Brute, Chainlink 4 or Chainlink 5 Mirror Jade, Chainlink 6 Domain. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it's a whopping Chainlink 6. I can't recall the last time we had a Chainlink 6 on the feature. So achievement unlocked, I guess, is at least what it feels like. So we're going to see Domain resolve. We're going to go ahead and send 2. Sending the Theresia and the Diplos. And also, okay, just going for the Kentragina here. And then Mirror Jade will resolve, banishing the Kentragina. And then the Brute will resolve, popping Dragostapelia. And then, yeah, the Banishment will resolve, Callby will fizzle since its target is no longer in grave. Harpies resolves, right? So everything resolving here backwards like, you know, Chainlinks typically do. And we'll see what he's going to go ahead and fusion summon for with the Albion and the Darlington Cobra. Checking the opponent's grave. I believe both of them... Well, I believe both Diplos and Kentragina have effects that allow them to kind of float. But that's their on-field effects. I think if they are destroyed, they can summon like a level 6 or lower Dinomorphia from grave. And then, you know, if Diplos hits the field, right, you send a Dinomorphia. If Theresia hits the field, you set a Dinomorphia trap. So they can do a bit of floating, but, you know, they don't really do too much on their own. It's the traps that you really want to worry about. But if you can stop Theresia from getting traps to the field by hitting them with Valor or Imperm. I hope I didn't say hit them with Ash earlier because you can't because they set. But if you can Valor or Imperm, you know, the Theresias or Moonlit Chill them. Well, I guess if it's a normal summon one, you can't, but you know what I mean. Just that kind of spot negation. So we're going to see him go ahead and set, I think that's Dinomorphia Alert. We'll see him set that off the Theresia. So you got to Dragostapelia back on field. Mirror Jade has been exhausted at this point, so cannot be used until the end of the next turn. And we'll see if there's any way he can kind of close the game out here. His opponent is only at 2,000 life points. So he will go ahead and battle phase attack the Theresia. And that's going to trigger the effect to go ahead and banish a trap, to go ahead and summon it, I believe. Still learning these Dinomorphia cards myself, so bear with me. That's going to just trigger him to be able to, the Theresia effect to summon out the Diplos, and then Diplos effect to go ahead and send. And yeah, it's nice that this deck kind of has this, because it does allow the deck to like block damage. And then we're going to see Diplos effect to go ahead and banish the trap, to again to go ahead and reborn out the Theresia, and then Theresia effect to go ahead and set one. So it's very, very floaty couple of cards here. And then we're going to see Fairy Tale Snow activate here. Go ahead and banish 7. And then go ahead and book the Theresia. And then run over it as well. Both the effects have been exhausted. And then he'll try to swing in for a game here. And then he's going to use the effect of Sonic and grave while their life points are 2,000 less. You can banish to make it so you don't take any battle or effect damage for the rest of the turn. So that's going to essentially buy him a turn here. Which is really, really clutch. Like, extremely clutch here. So he does not have any way to close out the game here. It might matter. But having Dragostapelia is really important here. To be able to negate like a Kentragina or something. But he knows he has Alert set. Which is luckily, you know, not a Domain. I'm also just going to pull up some of the Dinomorphia cards really quick while we're here. Oh, we're going to see Branded Fusion activate. That's a pretty good follow-up card to have at this point. So I want to read the alert. Alert says pay half your life points. Special summon up to 2 Dinomorphia monsters from your graveyard whose total levels equal 8 or less. But you cannot declare an attack with them this turn. Also, you cannot special summon this turn except for Dinomorphia monsters. So yeah, it's basically just like a monster born. It's going to kind of come in clutch here, since he already has Diplos and Theresia engraved. But we'll see what he's going to go for off this branded fusion. Be interesting to know. I also want to read over the Theresia and Diplos. It says if this card is destroyed by a battle or card effect, you can banish 1 trap from your graveyard as cost, special one level 4 or lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard except itself. And then I believe Theresia also says the same thing. Yeah, banish a trap, special one level 4 or lower Dinomorphia monster from your graveyard except itself. So we're going to see him go for Lubellion by dumping, I think, Fallen of Albaz and it looks like a Clamido Sundew. And going ahead and get a search of the Orphis Scorpio. And I think he's using the... Alright, I think he sent Biblisp. Okay, that makes much more sense. Sent Albaz and Biblisp. And then he pitched the Clamido Sundew for the Lubellion. I looked away to look at the Dinomorphia cards in my other monitor. So I missed that. So that makes more sense. So Biblisp adding the Orphis Scorpio or Ophrys. Ophrys Scorpio, not Orphis. That's something else. So yeah, Ophrys Scorpio as follow-up. And then he's going to be able to go ahead and fusion summon with the Lubellion into the Predap Power, which is a new fusion monster from Dimension Force. 1 dark fusion monster plus a fusion monster. Yeah, so going into that. Yeah, 1 dark fusion monster plus 1 fusion monster. It says once per turn when a card or effect is activated, you contribute 1 monster on either field with a Predator counter. And if you do, negate the activation. If this fusion summon card you control is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card, you can target 1 dark monster in your graveyard, special summon it. So it's kind of a house, 3600 attack. Kind of huge. And yeah, it's basically just a walking Omni negate by attributing anything on field with a Predator counter on it. And of course having access to Dragostapelia right now, which he does not have Dragostapelia on field, but he does have Predap Planning, which he'll get off the Ambulo Melodies, which I think he fusion summoned for with the Bufo. Since multiple lists I've seen play more than 1 copy, so having the Predap Planning in the back line will put counters on everything, and that's really insane because that just allows you to basically tribute anything on the field just to be an Omni negate and tribute your opponent's monsters. Tribute Fairy Tale Snow, and then have Fairy Tale Snow back in grave, while just completely shutting off any card, and then it floats when it hits the grave too. So we're going to go ahead and see him special summon out the another new Predaplant card, the Triantis, which is a 2400 body. And I don't think it does much on field, at least during the opponent's turn, so we'll just see him pass play there. We're going to see him lead with Diplos, and Diplos effect is going to go ahead and attempt to send a Dinomorphia. I believe Dinomorphia card from the deck to the grave. And we'll see what he is going to send. Kind of a tough decision at this point because, you know, you're definitely on the back foot here. I mean, that's kind of an understatement. You have to deal with Mirror Jade still. And having to deal with the Predap Power Fusion and also Predap Planning. So we're going to see him dump a copy of Sonic to the graveyard. And then we're going to see Predap Planning activate here. It's going to put Predator counters on everything. And then allow him to Foolish as cost. A copy of the Ophrys Scorpio. So now the Omni Negate from Predap Power is live. And really not much else he can do about it. Especially also being at 2,000 life points. So we'll see what he's going to do to get himself out of this bind. I don't see our Dinomorphia player winning this game. But looks like we will see the Diplos crash into the Fairy Tale Snow, and then Diplos effect to summon, and then we're going to see him activate the Rezi effect, and then we're going to see him activate the Predap power, tributing off the Triantis, and that is going to negate the effect. And something else I want to see too. Yeah, okay, it is a once per turn, I was going to say. You can only use this effect. But if you have multiples, because it is a soft once per turn, so if you have another copy of that card, you could do it again. So we're going to see him pass turn, and then swing in, and then negate the alert, which would have, you know, bought him another turn here. But again, he still has monsters on field that have predator counters on him, so he will be able to tribute them off and negate. So yeah, that was kind of a grindy game there, honestly. Both decks definitely capable of grinding. And yeah, so this is also kind of a weird match too, because like predator stuff, you know, Predap stuff, Predaplant stuff, still kind of new. Not really that new, but you know, still reading cards occasionally, and also the Dinomorphia cards are just starting to pop up more and more. So learning experience for me as well as I commentate over. So we're going to see him go ahead and activate Pot of Duality. That's going to go ahead and grab him a copy of Sonic. And we're going to see him set 5 pass. I saw a Judgment and a Strike. Oh, man, I spell that might just seal it. We'll see Branded Opening activate. Pretty good to have Opening here to kind of counter this, but... And Twin Twister. Okay, so now we're talking. We're seeing him pitch Opening off Twin. And this Judgment is about to go in. I mean, there's no reason you don't Judgment this here. Otherwise, like, the anti-spell alone is just so good. And he's also got Frenzy set. So he has Frenzy, Sonic, Judgment, Strike, anti-spell. So, like, open up, like, literally an insane hand here to beat Opening and Twin. The Opening will still resolve here. Going to go ahead and summon out Alibur this time. And opting not to add it to hand. Just going to go ahead and summon it. Activate effective Alibur to go ahead and add Branded Banishment. And Banishment is coming in very clutch here, because it is a way to fusion summon that doesn't use a spell. Same thing with Clamito Sundew. This also lets you fusion summon, just for a fusion dark monster, just by using monsters from your hand or field. And we'll see if he has the Ash for the Frenzy, but he's got the Solemn Strike. He said, okay, that's pretty good, but I'm just better here this time. He's got the Solemn Strike, gladly pay 15, putting him down to 500 life points. And then we're going to see him go for Kentragina, banish the trap to pay half to summon. So we're going to see him go ahead and, you know, banish and copy the Frenzy effect, sending the Diplos and sending the bird from the extra deck. And then we're going to see him go for the Rextrum. So now, having only 250 life points, this is making things even harder. Because Rextrum says your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters they control that have attack greater than or equal to your life points. So if he has a monster on field with 250 more attack, cannot activate its effects. Obviously, you can still do things in field or in grave and in hand, because it says only you control, not your possession, like Calamities said. I know people always compare this card with Calamities, but they are different, because Calamities said possession, which is, you know, hand, grave, field, right? Like everywhere. Extra deck, like in your possession, which is definitely a big difference in wordage. And then we're going to see him attack over the Clamito Sundew, leaving him at 4850. Since Kentragina is losing 250 attack, which puts it to 3750. So doing life points in this video was also kind of weird. So yeah, and imagine like when you get down to like 32 life points, which I've seen Dinomorphia do definitely. And then you like Kentragina's losing like 64 attack or 32 attack. Very strange. Yeah, so we're gonna see the Branded Banishment get negated by the Sonic. Yeah, that's what Sonic. Brute's the pop. Sonic's a spell trap negate, just because they just get a spell trap negate by tripping off a Dinomorphia. And then we're gonna see him bring back the Theresia. Just want to go ahead and read Kentragina here. Yeah, and that's just gonna be game regardless. Like, there's just no getting out of that tough situation. So we're gonna see Dinomorphia take it 2-1. If you guys want to see more of my content, check out one of the videos on the bottom of the screen right now. And last but not least, a huge shout out goes to our divine level channel members, who are Tweeter0226, Ponystar, Cadillacs84, Justin Lamb, and HTH Cyber. Thank you guys so much as always for your extremely kind and generous support of the channel.